My name is Lance Homer. I'm the global head of Equinix's digital payments and banking ecosystem. It's a great pleasure to be speaking to you today. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the future of payments and banking in the cloud. Operating in the cloud can offer Canadian banks and payment companies significant cost efficiency, scalability, and flexibility to accelerate their critical digital transformation, ultimately benefiting their competitive advantage. Now, I work for Equinix. Equinix is the world's digital infrastructure company. We have an ecosystem of 10,000 customers globally, and of those, 1,250 are financial service customers, and about 350 of those are banks, and 250 of those are payment companies. My role is to help them with their digital transformation as they connect to ecosystem partners and to cloud providers. One of the great things about my job is I'm able to see the trends that are happening in the marketplace as companies deploy their infrastructure inside of Equinix. What we've noticed is that there's three key trends that are why people are using Equinix and are what are happening in the marketplace overall. The first one is around infrastructure, where they're needing to deploy their infrastructure adjacent to cloud service providers so they can have low latency connectivity. And these use cases involve payments as a service, banking as a service, and modernization of core banking. Additionally, one of the buckets we see is around edge, where they're needing to deploy in a certain metro, certain country for data sovereignty reasons, for latency reasons, or connectivity requirements. These use cases might include starting up a digital-only bank in a new metro or new market. Another use case might be needing to connect to a new real-time payment scheme, such as the real-time rail in Canada. And the last one is around exchange. One of the key things that happens at Equinix is we curate ecosystems of companies that are doing business with each other. And so in the payments and banking ecosystem, many of our companies come into Equinix so they can connect to the partners and customers who consume their services to create the digital supply chain that makes banking and payments possible. Today, I want to do a little bit deeper dive on this infrastructure of how it impacts banks in the marketplace and what the trends we're seeing right now. So historically, the banking stack has been a siloed stack where everything is basically run on-prem by the bank in their own data center. Through the years, we've seen at Equinix a number of companies begin to connect to some of the back office IT infrastructure, such as Office 365, and using Equinix or a co-location provider like Equinix to build out their wide area network and connect to these with private connectivity. But really what makes them a bank or payment company has remained on-prem. And they've licensed the software from the service providers who make that software. What's really accelerated in the last 18 months has been a transition to some of the issuing and acquiring software being moved to an as-a-service model in the public clouds. And as that has occurred, we've seen the payment companies and banks begin to deploy what we call payment hubs inside of Equinix. This is infrastructure that is the compute, network, and storage that is necessary to facilitate a transaction that can't necessarily go on the public cloud. Some examples of this might be the payment HSM for credit and debit transactions, or a Swift router and a Swift server. It might be the card scheme routers, et cetera. So they do this so they can have low latency connectivity to the cloud service providers, where these applications have a very chatty relationship with those payment HSMs and have the ability to connect to the other partners that don't necessarily sit in that cloud. And really where we see this headed is that over time, that stack will grow and grow, and more of it will go into the public cloud. And we eventually see that the banks will exit their data centers and move into a hybrid multi-cloud architecture where they'll put their core banking at the edge, being able to connect to the AI and ML infrastructure that uses multiple data sets from different providers to run the applications they have right in the public cloud. Well, what's really happening in the marketplace is that there's new value chains being created in financial services. And what I mean by that is it used to be that a single provider would produce the entire stack up and down and sell it to the bank. Now banks have a choice of how they build their applications to run their bank. Not only do they have a choice, but also so do enterprises who are looking to build and embed financial services into their applications. And what we're seeing now is a very complex stack of different partners, some in the public cloud, some in colo, who are all exchanging data with each other to make an application seamless to the end user. Really, what's critical here is that the interconnection between the parties for both security, latency, and resiliency is highly important to make this to be a robust and wonderful customer experience for the end user. And so at Equinix, our goal is, again, like I said, to curate ecosystems to make it so that these new digital value chains can easily connect and assemble themselves inside of Equinix with low latency connectivity. And then we will see this growing in the future as more and more of that stack begins to go into the public cloud, and more of the endpoints need multiple partners to produce the digital supply chain. So we're here at the Payments Canada Summit, and they've announced the participants in the new real-time rail. And I'm excited for what's going to happen in Canada in the next few years. And as we envision kind of what the new Canadian real-time ecosystem is going to look like, at the center of it is obviously the platform that runs the real-time rail, which Payments Canada supervises and operates that based upon the platform of VocaLink and the connectivity to the participants being provided by Interact. At that first layer of this ecosystem, you're going to see the traditional banks who've been connecting and doing payments with each other, connecting to that infrastructure. But there's a broader ecosystem that's really important to understand of why they need connectivity to each other and to the cloud providers. Each of these banks has a number of service providers that are out there supporting them. Those service providers typically have licensed that software, and the banks have run that infrastructure on-prem. As this moves to the cloud, it's important that the banks understand that they're going to want to position themselves in a co-location facility that has low latency connectivity to the cloud, so they can now run those applications that are done by the service providers with low latency, with private connectivity to them. But it's not just them that they need connectivity to. There's a whole other ring of, that third ring of third-party providers such as, that might be retailers, other fintechs, who will be participating in this broad ecosystem. And so really what matters here is being able to create an ecosystem that is easy to connect to different partners in real time. One of the challenges that I often hear is, I want to enter a new market, but I don't have any customers yet. And I don't necessarily have any revenue to support the infrastructure that's going there. So one of the things that's been transitioning in this marketplace is a move towards infrastructure as a service, not just in the public cloud, but also with private infrastructure. So when we talk about being the world's digital infrastructure company, it's now capable for you to get a network as a service with firewall routing capabilities without having to deploy in a particular market. You can also get bare metal as a service without having to deploy in a particular market. You can get a payment HSM as a service without having to deploy in a market. And this allows you to participate and put your infrastructure in the middle of this ecosystem with a new idea, new innovative capabilities, without necessarily having to commit to 5 years of long-term contracts for co-location, for hardware that takes a lot of money for CapEx, and for network connectivity that may take a 3 to 5 year contract, and may take 2 or 3 months to install. And then the benefit of all this is that once these participants come together in an ecosystem, turning up the connectivity to them becomes very important at making sure that happens, not just with secure, reliable private connectivity, but making sure that it can be done quickly. What I mean by that is, as soon as a salesperson writes a contract, they want to see the benefit of that sale going through and hitting their commissions. And if they have to wait 6 to 8 weeks for that customer to go live, they're having to wait 6 to 8 weeks for the commission. Well, what we're seeing now is connectivity run across a software-defined network between our participants we call Equinix Fabric. This is helping facilitate the connectivity of the ecosystem participants that we envision participating in the Canadian real-time payment ecosystem broadly. We're seeing this in markets all around the world. Currently, Equinix has 8 national payment system operators co-located in Equinix. We're excited to participate and help the Canadian real-time payment ecosystem grow in its journey. And that brings me to my last slide here, which on my very first trip to Canada, I got on hotels.com and I randomly just chose, because of price, I believe, or rating, a hotel called the Royal York Hotel in Toronto. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful hotel. And not knowing anything about it or the market, I learned that this hotel was built to be adjacent to the rail system. And back in the 1800s, the rail providers built these hotels to be a stopping point for the tourists that were riding the rail systems, that they could go there and visit the cities and enjoy the scenery of Canada. That is on my bucket list to do someday. Well, late last year, Equinix acquired 13 data centers from Bell Canada. And we added 7 new metros in addition to our Toronto presence that we've been there for several years. And so these are a lot like these hotels that we built in these different markets, but we didn't have a rail system that connects them on a digital basis. So right now, Equinix is in the process this year of building out our Equinix Fabric to connect from coast to coast the different cities that make up the great Canadian landscape. So whether you're in Calgary or Kamloops, or you're in the cloud, or you're in Colo, Equinix is going to help make it easier for you to connect to your partners, your suppliers, your business users, all across the Canadian landscape. So I just want to invite you to come stay at our digital hotel and join us in this journey in your digital transformation as you move your payments and banking infrastructure to the public cloud. And if you'd like to follow up or get in contact with me, again, my name's Lance Homer. I work for Equinix. My email address is lhomer@equinix. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, go by the handle @_paymentologist. And I'm very grateful to have your time today and wish you a great summit.